Hello, everybody, and welcome into an episode of Between the Ears. It is our Selection Sunday special, and not much to preview here because West Virginia gets left out of the NCAA Tournament. There's a lot of different things that we could talk about here. I know I could go on for a long, long time about this. There's different things that we could talk about. At the end of the day, there's two things that are very, very true, at least in my opinion. You may share a different opinion, but one, I think West Virginia probably got robbed of a spot. And secondly, they could have taken care of this last week if they just beat Colorado. You beat Colorado, I don't think that there's any sort of snubbing, or however you want to word it, phrase it, that happens today. I think you beat Colorado, you're in the field, and that's history. So you can be mad at the committee. You can be mad at the committee chair, who's also the North Carolina AD. And you can also, at the same time, be mad at the team for not just taking care of business and winning the game that they should have been able to win in the Big 12 tournament last week. So, Chris, let's just go and give me your initial thoughts. What was your initial thought on seeing them being out, being the first team out, and I guess all the stuff that happened before that with Carolina getting in and Xavier getting in, so on and so forth?
Should have beat Colorado. That's my
Yeah.
first thought. I think everyone's pointing to North Carolina, and I get it, but they're ranked 36 in the net, and we can have a conversation on how flawed these rankings are,
The net's
and base
wacky.
and basing it solely on one set of rankings, and really go from there about how much they make enough money that they can't pay people a committee to travel around the country and watch these teams instead of bringing in ads and university presidents that probably don't keep it an eye as closely as, say, media members or just national media members that travel around and see these teams. But really, the shocking team to me that made it in over West Virginia was San Diego State. They're a notch
Yeah.
below West Virginia net rankings. West Virginia's 51, San Diego State's 52. Obviously, they have more one wins, so I'm not sure. And when you start looking up, yeah, UNC's the low hanging fruit, like you put the blue blood in, but they're 36th in the net ranking. So if you're looking at it and you're saying, well, and again, there's moving goalposts every single year. We see it in football as well on whoever they want. But you made it easy for them. Really, with the loss of Colorado, you made it really easy for them. But with the rankings being 36 to 51, North Carolina is not the team you should be looking at. It's San Diego State. So not sure exactly what San Diego State did to warrant that selection, but that's kind of where we're at with it. Like, it doesn't make sense, but at the same time, if you beat Colorado, you're in.
I also look at Xavier as well. They were
45th,
1-9. They're
45th
45th,
in the ranking. Yep.
but again, we can pick apart which rankings we want to go off of. And I know the NC or the selection committee uses the rankings, but they also use a bunch of other things. It's like 4 or 5 different systems that they use. But they're 1-9 in quad. This is what to me makes the net ranking so wacky. You're 1-9 in quad one games, yet you're 45th in the net. 6-10 in quad one games, and you're what, 51st in the net. That doesn't make sense to me. West Virginia's played a significantly harder schedule than Xavier. They've had more signature wins than Xavier, and the same thing can be said about North Carolina. North Carolina is in a very rugged, really, really bad ACC. The ACC has been bad for a couple of years now. This isn't the same ACC that used to run college basketball for a while. The ACC is incredibly weak. The Big 12 is a whole different other animal. It's maybe not what it was a couple of years ago, but it's probably the second, maybe third best conference in major college basketball. I don't understand how West Virginia gets left out over those two teams. I think you have a case with San Diego State as well, because, I mean, who the hell do they play either? I mean, let's get real. I don't understand being 1-9 and getting into the field. I would say you even Indiana kind of has an argument, probably not nearly as much as West Virginia. Ohio State has an argument. I don't know. If we're gonna make the net ranking such a heavily weighted thing in this, it's got to be more accurate. There's teams that have more quad one wins, maybe double or triple quad one wins, and are 10, 15 spots below than teams that only have two quad one wins. North Carolina, for example, they were 1-12 in quad one games. 1-12. They lost to Pitt, as West Virginia did. They also lost to Stanford and Wake Forest. Their only win that was qualified as signature is UCLA. West Virginia beat Kansas without Tucker DeVries, beat Iowa State without Tucker DeVries, and yet the committee chair says that they take player availability into account. They played their entire Big 12 schedule without Tucker DeVries. Let's get real.
Yeah, I mean these guys aren't good at their job. As I
No,
said, we
and it's the
we could
same thing. And I'm
we
not
can
trying to
go on a
blame.
rant about
Yeah, I'm
again
not trying
these
to
committee
blame the
members.
Carolina. I'm not trying to blame the Carolina AD because it's the same thing in the college football playoff committee. It's the same exact thing. They give crap answers. They don't have any idea what the hell they're talking about. It's bogus.
All right, these guys aren't paying attention to college basketball. So again, I
No.
don't know why these guys are committee members. Like it may like, and you could say the same thing about the football, and they move the goalposts every year to fit a narrative.
Yeah.
So I mean, the easy answer would have been,
Beat
well,
Colorado. Well,
that,
or West
but
Virginia.
the rankings. We looked at the rankings; they're 15 spots higher than West Virginia. That's why they're in. Now we can say the rankings obviously are flawed for everything that you just said, but for whatever reason, this is the best that they can come up with. You know, it used to be BPI was the big one, right? Like
Yeah.
that was the big one. Now they moved it to the net. So again, there has to be more of a human element. Again, the NCAA they make a lot of money off this tournament. There's plenty of national media members that you could probably tab, um, and form a committee. Plenty of you could have a ton of members. They could all have their voice opinion. They could all meet in the last month and say, these are the teams we're looking at. This is the metrics that we're looking at. This is how we're going to do it moving forward, and then go from there. But for whatever reason, they're not investing in that, and
Yeah.
it really goes back to first off, this team obviously exceeded expectations, especially after Tucker went out. To go win at
They
Kansas the
shouldn't
way
have
they
even been
did,
in this position.
right? Exactly. So kudos to Coach DeVries and the team for even getting to this spot. But you just had to finish one more game stronger. I mean, what they were up 12-13 in that game in the first half or something of that nature before ultimately losing. Took their get foot off the pedal. So uh, kind of seen it this year a couple times. Arizona State at home, you probably win that game, you're in. So you're really a one. You're in total, you're probably like 10 minutes of basketball from
Yeah.
being in the NCAA tournament. So it's obviously it's frustrating. We don't know what's going to. I can't. I don't know about the NIT at all because you're looking at
Right.
five seniors right now. That if you're Javon Small, you're probably
Thinking about the
well,
NBA at this point.
right. You're looking at the NBA. What can I do? He was banged up throughout the back half of the stretch of the conference schedule. He probably wants to get healed up, get ready. The other guys may want to stick around, play a little bit more basketball.
But do you have enough?
They have plenty of. Well, yeah, you're only missing one guy at that point, but if the rest of the seniors want to stick around, play a little bit more basketball, they definitely have a professional career ahead of them. Obviously, not in the NBA, but overseas. What's their timelines look like? But you kind of like to see it just from Amani Hansberry, Sincere Harris, KJ Tanner, Jonathan Powell, all these guys that are potentially coming back next season to kind of build off this year, learn from those mistakes, and
Go
see
out
what they can
strong.
do and go see what they can do in the NIT tournament. Because really, as bad as it probably feels for a lot of Mountaineer fans, it's actually maybe a good thing moving forward because now these guys can go look at it and say, you know what, we had BYU on the ropes in Morgantown. We should have beat Arizona State. We should have went out to Manhattan and beat Kansas State. We had TCU in Fort Worth. Like we had these wins. We got to go play for 40 minutes. Darren DeVries talked about that all season long. Like we got to put our best 40 minutes forward every single night that we take the floor, and they didn't do that every night. Now, granted, obviously the other teams had a lot to say that as well, but that's why you work all off season. The team was just put together over the summer. They played really well, but now they can build off that, take that frustration, move it forward, and understand like, look, every game matters. You can't take a night off. You have to finish these last 5 minutes of games. You have to finish strong so you can pull out the win, especially on the road. So yeah, there's a lot of games you can go back and look to kind of just move this argument to the side here
Yeah.
and and they wouldn't be in this position that they're in right now.
I'm glad you brought up the NIT thing because I answered that in one of my mailbags. I think it was this morning's mailbag. And I said the same thing. I seriously doubt Javon Small would want to play in an NIT or whatever if it's not that those guys came here to get to the tournament. And even if they fell one spot shy, I just don't know that it's worth the risk. More so for Javon than anybody else to go out there and continue to play. Now, maybe he's just a different type of guy, and he said, "What the hell? I'm here to finish what I started. I don't care if we make the tournament or not." If he does, hats off to him. But I don't think there should be any sort of kind of Will Greer type feelings going around from the fan base. If they do play in the NIT, Javon decided to sit. Understand this is a very different situation. I mean, they're similar situations, but the NBA, you only have 2 rounds, and most projections really don't have him projected to go in the draft. Maybe he could find a way to get in there, especially if he has a good combine, good workouts with teams. I think he will eventually, maybe somewhere in the late second round, but you got to protect yourself at this point. And when you're playing in a tournament that's just, it's not the granddaddy of them all, then, it is what it is. But to put this on a strong note or a good note, I guess we should say, like you mentioned, this team surpassed expectations. Shouldn't have been where they were today, especially after the Tucker DeVries news popped up. I don't know that you could have asked for a better first year. I mean, let's be honest. Even though they didn't get into the tournament, like who would have thought in a year you beat Kansas at Kansas, you beat Iowa State, you beat Gonzaga, you beat Arizona, and you don't make the tournament. Like that's a kick to the pants. But the reality is there's a lot of positive steps made this year. It was a complete 180 from what we saw a year ago. And I don't know. Hats off to this team and coaching staff because I don't think they're going to get the credit they deserve. Probably also because they didn't get in. You won't get to see that story kind of highlighted more so on a bigger stage. But what they were able to do this year is nothing short of incredible.
Absolutely. I'll give you two positive notes to end on. First, women's basketball team is obviously very
Yes.
alive and well in postseason play. Probably not going to get a chance to host an NCAA tournament game, but um, hopefully they'll be within distance so Mountaineer fans can go cheer them on. And the baseball team beating Oklahoma State at
Yeah.
Oklahoma State. That was a huge, huge win. Oklahoma State hit 4 home runs. West
Rolling.
Virginia West Virginia still came up on top. They hit 3 home runs themselves, so that's a big one. They did, and they got to play one game. If you're unaware, Oklahoma had a lot of wildfires spread around the Stillwater area. They had to cancel the first 2 games before they could just get one game in on Sunday. So Saban's and crew did some pretty good things out there today with the pitching staff. Had a great game from Chase Myers to finish it out with, I believe, 9 strikeouts, 8 strikeouts. Can't remember off the top of my head because I remember Kern had 8 strikeouts to start the game. So some pretty good performances from the pitching staff today, and baseball team's rolling. They host Arizona this weekend, so
Hey, let's not
it
forget
should be
too,
fun
2 national championships in the last few
over
days
the
as
weekend. Yep,
well.
rifle
So
team,
hats off
rifle team. Yep,
to the rifle team, and I don't know how to pronounce it. I think it's Kaylee McCabe, right? Is that how you
yep.
pronounce it? So hats off to those two for winning the national championship rifle, and then her as well. So there is some positive things going on. We'll keep in touch. We'll see what happens with the NIT situation if WV decides to play in it or not. Once we get that
They
information,
should be. They
probably
should be the number one overall if they do accept.
yeah,
They're
you
more
would
likely the
think
number one overall
home
seed. So
court
a couple.
advantage.
I, I think there's going to be a business aspect of this as well. I don't think they would
Yeah,
want to disappoint the kids if they want to play. But the fan turnout for NITs haven't been great in Morgantown. Now, granted, I think the last time they played here for an NIT, I think they lost was it Grand Canyon,
yeah.
pretty
Jordan
badly.
McCabe
So
and Matthews. Yeah.
yeah, so yeah, that one was kind of ugly. That was a CBI. That wasn't the
Oh yeah,
NIT.
that was
So
the CBI. Was the
um,
last NIT? It couldn't have been the one they won, right?
no, no, Hugs went to one as well. So I think they lost to Georgetown. I don't know if Hugs brought one to
Yeah,
Morgantown
I
or
can't.
not. I think
I don't
they
think.
played
I don't think
Georgetown.
they
They
won
played
another one.
Georgetown. I know they played Georgetown and won and went out there and lost. So
Yeah.
It would be there was another, oh, that was just CBI. I keep thinking there was an NIT here under Huggins, but I don't think there was, because the NIT, that was, I think, their first year of Big
Yeah.
12. I think that may have been the last time they were in NIT and they went out to Georgetown, which there was some discrepancy why they went out to Georgetown to play then as well. So,
Yeah, it'll be interesting. We'll have some sort of episode coming later this week once we find out their destination or if they even have one. If not, we'll do kind of a recap and end of the season type of episode of what to look for this offseason, portal needs, recruiting, all the other bull crap that's kind of been floating around there the last few days. So we'll talk about all of that once we get some more information here about the postseason. But we thank you guys for tuning in. Also for tuning into all of our post game shows throughout the year. We couldn't do it without you guys, so we appreciate your support. Make sure you hit that subscribe button here on our YouTube page at West Virginia on SI. Give us a follow on X at SI_WVU. For Christopher Hall, I'm Schuyler Callihan. Thank you guys for watching Between Ears, and we'll see you back here in a few days.